Shabbat Shalom. I'm Betty Adams, co-president of Temple Sinai, along with Lynn Weinstein, and it is my privilege and my pleasure tonight to welcome you to our Erev Shabbat services, both those who are here with us in our sanctuary, as well as those who are watching at home. And before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors. Tonight's Erev Shabbat service is sponsored by Jean Hirschberg in memory of her beloved husband, Louis Hirschberg, Helene and Sidney Wortell in honor of Sidney's birthday, Helene and Sidney Wortell in honor of Cantor Jake Harris with gratitude for his service to Temple Sinai. Don't get me started, please. Lori Weiss-Wolchin and David Wolchin in honor of their 3rd wedding anniversary. Happy anniversary. Donna and Larry Lopater in honor and appreciation of Cantor Jake. Happy birthday, Sidney, by the way. Didn't mean to leave that out. Belle Brody in honor of Judy and Bob Shoemaker's 50th wedding anniversary. The following donations to the community food pantries are sponsored by Carol and Paul Schoenberg.
Just a moment, Betty. There are some people who can't hear you. Can we raise the volume of that particular microphone because people can't hear it? Sorry.
I need to be heard.
Yes.
I could yell, but nah. All right, closer to the mic? Okay, I'll get shorter. Okay. Are we good now? Shall we test? That's better? Okay, great. And now the following donations to the community food pantries are sponsored by Carol and Paul Schoenberg in honor of Paul's birthday. Happy birthday, Paul. Belle Brody in honor of Lori Weiss-Wolchin and David Wolchin's 3rd wedding anniversary. And Norma and Marvin Ravikoff in support of the Caring Kitchen. Our Saturday, June 26th Shabbat Torah study, tomorrow at noon, is sponsored by Carol and Paul Schoenberg in honor of Paul's birthday, Helene and Sidney Wortell in memory of Melvin Wortell. And now I'd like to welcome Rabbi Aviva Bass, along with Cantor Jake Harris and our accompanist, Dr. David McFarling.
Thank you, Betty. So I'm sure I don't have to mention to you that tonight is a celebration that is somewhat bittersweet, that our cantorial soloist, our beloved cantorial soloist, Jake Harris, this is his final service with us as our cantorial soloist. So we're going to enjoy some beautiful music, and it's wonderful to see the choir back here, and we'll have some fun, too. So first, let's start with the candle lighting and Kiddush. And I'd like to invite Lynn and Betty to come to do candles and Kiddush. Lynn Weinstein and Betty Adams, who are our co-presidents. Mine is off. That's that one, maybe. Okay.
We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. In presence, guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer.
The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemase v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh Zecher litziat Mitzrayim Ki banu v'acharta Ve'otanu kidashta Mikol ha'amim V'shabbat kodshecha Be'ahava u'veratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. L'chaim.
Good vintage tonight. Very good vintage.
It's a party up here. We got 4 cups.
Okay. We are going to have a little bit of extra music tonight, so I am going to have Cantor Jake explain as he goes along until our next stopping point, but we're going to start on page, is this in the book, 129?
So
or no?
I don't think that this first song is in the book. This is one by Beth Schaefer, and the lyrics are so simple. I think that even with a couple ones we could learn it. Just repeat after me. In this house.
In this house.
In this house.
In this house.
It all comes together.
It all comes together.
In this house.
In this house.
And then the second time around, after house, you just add God, of God. And this one pretty much sings itself. So again, if you don't know the lyrics, we're always all good here with the I, Die, Die. I'm going to grab a pick. We got the choir. And folks, tonight, we just want to hear all of you more than me. I know, there's some talk about some things, but we mostly want to hear all of y'all, not necessarily us up here. And the choir is going to help us out. In this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, it all comes together in this house of God. In this house beats the heart of a family. In this house is the center of a community. We study and we pray, find meaning in each day. In this house, all together now. In this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, it all comes together in this house of God. In this house is a spark of God's creation. In this house there's a joy and celebration. We song or by word, your prayers will be heard. In this house, in this house. In this this house, in this house, it all comes together in this house. Oh, in this house, in this house, it all comes together in this house of God. In this house we can shelter, we can clothe and feed. In this house there is always help for those in need. A stranger makes a friend, becomes, say it again, in this house, in this house, in this house. All together now. In this house, in this house, it all comes together in this house. In this house, in this house, it all comes together in this house of God. Special shout out to choir member, not to put her on the spot, Judy Shoemaker, and she gave me the inspiration when we're talking about being in a holy house. She's got the freshest clothes. She knows how to get me looking good, feeling good. So thanks, special shout out to Judy for that one. And now this is another song. This one, I told David, our accompanist, I said, if you've heard this melody before tonight, then you must be reading my mind, man, because I wrote this, I think, within the time that I was at Temple Sinai. So. This is Lechuna Ranana on page 130, and so this is my gift for all of us, to you, from me to you in music. Lechuna Ranana, it's about singing a song to God, and that's the reason why I'm here. That's the reason why we are here. And so to you all, Lechuna Ranana, from my pen to your ears, cherish it. I hope that you'll sing it again in this temple. I hope Rabbi Aviva will sing it,
Absolutely.
and other people will continue to sing it. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, Naria litzui Ishenu, Nekad ma'afanav v'toda, Bizmiro Naria lo, Bizmiro Naria lo. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, Naria litzui Ishenu, Nekad ma'afanav v'toda, Bizmiro Naria lo, Bizmiro Naria lo. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, l'Adonai, l'Adonai. Lechuna Ranana l'Adonai, Naria litzui Ishenu, Nekad ma'afanav v'toda, Bizmiro Naria lo, Bizmiro Naria lo, Bizmiro Naria lo, Bizmiro Naria lo. L'dor v'dor, we have a wall out back, generation to generation. So I wrote that one, and my great uncle wrote this one. Someday, hopefully they'll sing my music after I've been dead for 250 years. But only time will tell. And I don't know if any of us in this room will be able to know by then. So, Sadi Katamar, let's turn to page 140. Sadi Katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizkei shetu bevita devet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafri. now for a quintessential prayer of Shabbat. This one I believe you all know, and I hope that you'll sing Lecha Dodi, page 138, 139.
Are we going to do all the verses tonight, Cantor Jake, in honor of your departure?
Yes, Lecha Dodi has always been my favorite prayer. In fact, I think that we should do each verse twice.
Yes.
Yes, twice. No, actually, the first verse, it says, it was a midrash, I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but they said he wrote the first verse and then he gave it to his minions and they wrote all the rest like Pythagoras. Pythagoras didn't really create the theorem. 1, 2, 5, and 9, folks, that's the Temple Sinai special. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 1. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad yishmianu, El hamiuchad Adonai echad. Shemo echad, Shemul tiferet veletehila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha hihi mekor, haberacha merosh mekedem, nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machsheva tehila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech, kumi ori, uri, uri, shir daberi, kvod Adonai, alayich higla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala gam besimcha, uv'tzola toch emuneh, am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
If you are able to do so, please remain standing as we turn to page 146. And are we awake? I think so. I think we're awake, we're aware, and we are ready for the Barchu, the call to worship.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yada die die die, 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 yada die die die. Baruchu et Adonai. Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Sing it loud. Le'olam va'ed. Yada dai dai dai. 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 Yada dai dai dai.
Please take a seat if you would. And on page 149 of our Siddur, we have an interpretive version of the Ma'ariv Aravim prayer, the prayer of to marvel at God's creation of the world. And this is certainly an hour of change that we're celebrating tonight, from one place to another, from our journey along this path of pandemic to God-willing steps toward health and togetherness, and as we say, a fond farewell to our friend Cantor Jake. So page 149, please join me as we read at the bottom of the page. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. On page 150, we continue with Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Havta Torah u'mitzvot u'chim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amecha Havta Torah u'mitzvot u'chim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shokbeinu kumeinu B'shokbeinu kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה יאי די 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 ידה דה די ידה דה די דה דה די יאי די 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 ידה דה די ידה דה די דה דה די ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch hu u'baruch shemo.
אוהב עמו
Those who are able to do so, please rise as we turn to Shema, pages 152 and 153.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod, Malchuto, Leolam, Leolam Vaed. And thou shalt love Adonai thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto thy children, and you shall speak of them when you sittest in the house, and walkest way, and when you rise up, and when you lie down, and when you lie down. And you shall bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
Please have a seat. And we continue now with a joyous song, a song of celebration which our ancestors sang, and we've sung ever since, that comes directly from our Torah, the Micha Mocha, on page 158. And please join us.
Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh, Norah tehilot osei pele, Norah tehilot osei pele, malechutecha ra'u banecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, Zeli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Yadai da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yadai da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yadai da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yadai da 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 da, yada da da da. V'nemar ki fadar Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo mi'al chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai. Gal Yisrael.
On page 162, at the top of the page, we have the Vishamru, which is a joyful song about Shabbat, about how joyful it is to celebrate Shabbat all together. And certainly, we feel that tonight. Page 162 at the top.
And this setting, actually, of a shamru, if you all remember, at the very beginning of the 2 years I worked here, Rabbi Aviv and I made a recording of this, one of the first videos we ever put out. We had no idea that it was going to be many, many, many more videos
Yes.
after that.
We
So
thought,
many.
oh, it was just going to be a couple of weeks. I didn't even have my phone on something stable. It was on like a bunch of empty boxes. I thought, it's just 1 week. What are we going to do? Right?
And each week you filled one of those boxes
Right.
with stuff.
Move things around, yes.
So this is a tribute to keeping Shabbat throughout this entire pandemic. We didn't miss one service. I don't think we missed one service.
Yep.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם. One more time. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם.
Beautiful. So, in my very first congregation that I served as a rabbi in Melbourne, Australia, I will never forget that after one of the festival services in which I delivered a sermon about joy and all about how we feel joyful at this time, someone came up to me, a young woman, and she said, "But Rabbi, I don't feel joyful. I'm in the midst of depression. Some awful things have happened in my life. Are you telling me that I don't have a right to be here with the congregation at this time?" And ever since then, I've been very careful to say, whatever your feelings, they're your feelings, and you have a right to them. Judaism doesn't say that you have to only bring happy, thankful thoughts to God. You bring whatever is in your heart. And so, at the bottom of page 165, we see this Reb Nachman of Wroclaw quote. It says, "Every word of one's prayer should be like a rose that is picked from a bush. One gathers rose upon rose until a bouquet is formed and can be offered to God as a beautiful blessing." Sometimes we do have beautiful roses to offer to God. And sometimes we just feel like we're in the thorns, but that's okay too. We offer whatever is in our heart of hearts. So I invite you, we're going to start this tefillah together. In a moment we'll rise and we'll start together with Cantor Jake in the Hebrew, and then we will go to a time of silent prayer and meditation. And I encourage you, whatever your feelings, to just pour them out silently to God, that's okay. And then we'll come back together. Please be seated when you are finished with your silent prayer so we know when we may continue. But we rise together on page 164 with the tefillah.
שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot va'imahot, U'mevi Geula livnei vneihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. ניצול לשוני מרע ושפתיים מדבר מרמה דלים קל אליי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי אלוהי ניצול לשוני מרע ושפתיים מדבר מרמה דלים קל אליי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי אלוהי ניצול לשוני מרע ושפתיים מדבר מרמה דלים קל אליי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי פתח לשוני מרע ושפתיים מדבר מרמה דלים קל אליי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי ניצול לשוני מרע ושפתיים מדבר מרמה דלים קל אליי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי יהיו לי רצונים רפי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי
We now come to the prayer for healing. And I'd like to share with you before I ask you for names and talk about the names of those we are thinking of in our community who are in need of healing, that this is a week, a couple of days, when I've been reminded that prayers for healing do not always mean that they're prayers for curing. Sometimes it is possible that people who are ailing are cured, and of course we pray for that. But real healing is not just in the physical realm. And so as I think this week, and my heart goes out to all of those buried beneath the rubble in Miami, I've been praying. My first prayer is that if there are people who are still living, who are still breathing, whose hearts are still beating, that they'll be found, and found quickly, and that they'll be brought out. But secondarily, I also pray that those who are not able to be rescued, that nevertheless they feel the presence of the divine rescuer, that they know that they are not alone, that they feel our prayers, that they feel God's presence. And that's what I pray for anyone whose bedside I sit at. God willing that they'll get better. But if not, no matter what, that they know that God is with them. So now we are thinking of them, but I also want to invoke all of those whom we are thinking of in our community who are in need of healing, some of body, of mind, of spirit, of all three. And those who are worshiping from afar and who are watching this on YouTube are seeing a list of names in front of them of those we know of who are in need of healing. On their screens, they're seeing those lists of names. But I'd also like to invite anyone here, if you have a name or names of people that you are thinking of, and also people who are worshiping from afar. We won't hear you auditorily, but we'll feel you. Please say the names of those you are thinking of who are in need of healing at this time right now. And so for all of those whom we have named, as well as all those who are struggling all over the world, we sing this Mishaberach. Please join us.
Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor Abracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Singing is thirsty work. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. These words, still in our morning liturgy today, come from this week's Torah portion, Parshat Balak. They are uttered not by an Israelite, but by a foreign sorcerer, Balaam, who is commissioned by his king Balak to curse the Israelites, but who blesses them instead with these famous words. Although Balaam is a famous foreign sorcerer, he has a deep understanding of God. In fact, he calls God by God's four-letter tetragrammaton name, the unpronounceable name of God that we have for God, that we call Adonai. And this is the name, of course, used by the Israelites for the Almighty, and that's what he calls God. One lesson that we can learn from this intriguing story that I hope you will read if you haven't done so already, and a little plug for Torah study tomorrow to read it with our congregation. But one lesson we can learn from this intriguing story of foreign sorcery, a talking animal, a frightened king, and our people encamped in the desert, is what Balaam says many times to the king Balak, but which he refuses to accept. Balaam tells Balak time and again that he can't say anything but that which God puts into his mouth to say. While this is literal in its context in the Torah, we can also read this to mean that each of us must follow the dictates of our hearts and our highest calling in the moment to the best of our ability to discern. This also calls to my mind the first person in our people's recorded history to hear the voice of God, and that is, of course, Abraham. In our Torah portion now, Balak could not understand how Balaam could not simply just do his bidding, and why he had to pay heed to this God of another people. In the story of Abraham, we can imagine a similar reaction from his community when he follows the voice of God telling him to leave all that he knows and to go to a place far away that he doesn't even know where it's going to be, and it's unseen. And yet, Abraham goes, and we know the rest is history, because thankfully he fathers our people. The Torah portion in which Abraham is first called by God is called Parshat Lech Lecha, and is named as such from the words that God tells Abraham. Lech means go in the imperative, telling someone to go, go, lech. And lecha is usually translated as something like yourself, like take yourself, get up and go, take yourself up and go. Yet the mystics understood that the word lecha literally means to you. And so they said, the mystics, in other words, that God is telling Abraham, as well as all of us reading the story all these generations later, his progeny, that we should go to our highest selves, to go to where God leads us on our individual journeys through life. As Shakespeare once said, one of my favorite quotes, "To thine own self be true." Jake Harris was led on his journey here to Temple Sinai, our congregation. And despite the fact that he could not stop sweating the entire time of his first visit, and I don't think much has changed, Jake left his comfortable home and life in Massachusetts to live in the heat of South Florida because of the warmth he found here to begin his cantorial career here with us. And we are all so grateful that he made that decision. In the short 2 years that he has been Temple Sinai's cantorial soloist, Jake has made a tremendous impact on our community. He has become close to many members of our congregation. I know only a portion of them are here. Many are watching and worshiping from their homes, and many will be watching in time to come. And he has brought many great talents and skills to us in new ways. Temple Sinai has not only benefited from Jake's musical talent in singing, guitar, and piano, but also his talents as a composer, which we heard again tonight. He has given us beautiful liturgical settings that I know that we will use for many years to come. And Jake has also led our congregational choir, and that has meant a great deal to all the members of the Temple Sinai Volunteer Choir, and I'm sure they will continue to tell him what an impact that he has had on each of their lives, not only musically, but really their lives. To me, before I get to that, one more thing. Even when they could not meet in person and sing during the pandemic, Jake created opportunities for the choir to get together virtually and to connect through music. Even though they couldn't sing in time together, he made sure that they felt music together and they felt together as a choir. And now to me personally, it's been wonderful to have a Bima partner with whom I've been able to lead in harmony together. And I mean that in both senses of the term harmony. All of this would have been enough, But little did we know when Jake Harris became our congregation's cantorial soloist that we would be facing a global pandemic his second year. The second year he came here. But Jake more than rose to the challenge, taking his own skills with technology to a new level and keeping us going with recorded and then live broadcasts of all of our services together. We have truly been blessed by Jake's presence in our congregation these past 2 years. And although we are saddened that he has chosen to move along on his journey, we are happy that he will remain a part of our larger Jewish community here in Palm Beach County, and that he and his beloved Cantor Rachel Slusky will be nearby. I look forward to seeing each other at many community events in the future, God willing. In closing, I want to say to you, Cantor Jake, I wish you all the best, and I say, Lech Lecha, continue to go to your highest self, where you feel your journey is leading you. May you be guided by the vision of our people and the song of your heart. May you always allow yourself to be sung, an instrument of the Holy One. And may your voice continue to inspire others to do the same. Thank you. And now I believe that there are a couple of other people who want to say something to Jake, our co-presidents, Betty Adams and Lynn Weinstein.
Jake, why don't you join us over here, please?
Oh. Little crisscross applesauce for you. No.
You know, 2 weeks ago, when Jake delivered a sermon, he said, "When I was young," and we were only a small gathering, and there was a lot of when he was young. Well, folks, I have one. When I was young, I spent the first 3 summers of my life at Revere Beach. And one of the things that I saw every day was a wild roller coaster. Your ride here at Temple Sinai has been a wild roller coaster. Some of us think it's a long and winding road that we travel on our journeys, but that long winding road has highs and lows. After all, he took a train ride south and climbed Mount Sinai. As Rabbi Aviva said, he has filled us with song and soul, taught our children to really love music. Isn't that right, Delilah? Taught our students and prepared for their B'nai Mitzvah during a time that no science fiction author could have imagined. And as we said earlier, we never missed a Shabbat worship. Many of you don't know that that first Friday service was planned on a park bench in front of a library. And all we said is, we must do this. And thank you, Cantor Jake and Rabbi Aviva. You've been doing it all along. And looking around the congregation tonight and speaking with folks at home, it's terrific that we're gathering together once again, carefully and slowly, but we are gathering together. Jake, continue to use your voice to reach for the divine in your own way, in only your own way. Don't let others push you around. You know your own path. And Lech Lecha. Go forth for yourself. You have been a blessing to us. Rachel, could you join us here for a moment, please? Please, come together. Our congregation has welcomed both of you as family. And you are going on your own new separate journeys together, starting a life together in a new home here in Palm Beach County. And on behalf of our whole congregation, Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha.
Wow.
And you both shall
Oh
be
my
a
God.
blessing.
Thank you.
No words.
We would have had tissues up here, but I used all of them to wipe my forehead. I have really very few words to say. I said some of the words in a sermon before, and I had written it and prepared it. And one of the other things that Temple Sinai allowed me to do, for better or for worse, you can work on the percentages of how it goes for better or for worse, letting me wing it. And I don't know if people really realize how much I tend to wing it, and not on the bema here, but in life, if I'm ever confronted or if I ever have to be put on the spot, like right now. But that has come with so much fear in my life, and anybody that's a musician knows that improvisation is one of the scariest things because you don't know what's going to happen. And for me, as I said in one of my earlier addresses in one of those sermons I gave before, not only were there bullies in school about Judaism, but there are music bullies too, because as anybody in the musical world can say, there are bullies. Go watch the movie Whiplash if you don't know, but people bully in music. Coming here to Temple Sinai, for the first couple weeks, that sweat really was nerves. And I had a convenient excuse that I could say I'm from the north, so it made me sweat. But this was really the first job that I ever had. First job I ever had in my life. I mean, besides stacking boxes or packing vitamins for my local nutritionist, odd jobs here and there. And really what made this an unbelievable experience was being able to work with Rabbi Aviva, have Betty and Lynn and Judy Herman, who was also a co-president during my time here. I hope she's watching. I know she's got some unbelievable events to cater to with her family, so we're wishing her the best. And the choir, of course. So a special thanks in the whole congregation. I said it to them in private, but it was the choir that had my back when nobody else knew me. And they said, all right, we'll give this guy a shot. And I tend to think that it was the choir's words, not in front of me, but to other people, that really helped me enter into the community. So to Rabbi Aviva, for all of your wisdom, for giving me a platform here, thank you. Thank you for being my Bema partner. Thank you for harmonizing with me and making beautiful music.
Thank you.
And to Betty and Lynn, for all of the phone calls, for all of the Facebook messages that we sent at 3 a.m. talking about temple business. And really, the presidents of Temple Sinai, when you sign up for that job, what they give you is a briefcase and a hammer, because you have to do business, and also they might get you on for some renovations too. So the presidents are working so hard, tirelessly, and the admin committee and the board of trustees. I'd never been to a board meeting. I didn't know what a board of trustees was. What are these things? You don't understand. Like, I was really, really young. So now that it's my last service, I can finally...
So many years ago.
So young. I was so
years
young.
ago.
I can admit that to you all. So thank you again. And I hope that my phone line, my email line, always please send them to me. And I'm going through the move right now, but we will be together in spirit. We'll be in touch. And
We'll probably be together in person too.
And
this
in
is a
person,
small
too.
community. We're going to be together. We'll see each other.
we will all be together.
Yeah.
We'll be together.
God willing.
And I hope that we'll be able to sing. And that's my unprepared speech for the night. Thanks for
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, we actually have more of a service to come after all of that. So we're going to start with the concluding blessings with the Aleinu, and I would like to invite up the Schoenbergs, Carol and Paul Schoenberg, to come up to open the ark for the Aleinu, and this is in honor of Paul Schoenberg's birthday. So happy birthday to Paul. Please rise, if you are able, and turn to page 586 for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please take a seat. Thank you, Paul. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Paul. Shabbat shalom.
In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. We know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. This week we recall the Yartzites, the anniversary of the following people whose names are illuminated on the plaques surrounding our sanctuary: Kenneth Becker, Seymour Birkin, Claudine Cassell, Frida Chazen, Rita Chazen, Sylvia Cardone Finkelstein, Robert Flaxman, Samuel D. Friedman, Helen A. Goldbert, Leonore Goodman, Norman Gottesman, Louis H. Hirschberg, Morris Jackler, Louis C. Karch, Peter Klinghoffer, Edith Labor, Milton Lieberman, Rose Malmond, Morton H. Pechter, Doris Saunders, Jesse J. Stein, Thelma R. Stern, Catherine G. Stream, and Shirley Zwigenhaft. Others recalled at this time: Richard Glickman, Lissy Kramer, Hilda Shangold, and Melvin Mortel. We also recall with sadness the more recent passings of Susan Edelstein, Bruce Shaughnessy, Faye Slusky, and Alan Fields. If you are thinking of someone whom I have not named, as I gesture around the room, just wave at me and you can say the name aloud now. And those who are worshiping from afar, please say the names of those you are thinking of at this time as well. So for all of those whom we have named, as well as all of those who were murdered in the Shoah, we rise in solidarity with mourners everywhere as we turn to page 598 for the Mourners Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma divarach chirute v'yamlich machute B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ul almei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal Shemei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'amiran ba'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shamaya. B'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Hosei shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn among us. And let us all say, Amen. Please take a seat as we come to our concluding song, which is a very special song that the choir and I would like to sing in honor of and to Cantor Jake at this time. Yes, why don't you stand where we all can see you. Thank you all. Shabbat Shalom. Please hang out a little bit. We have a little nosh, and we can all say our fond farewells at that time. Shabbat Shalom. Then we'll never be able to get through.
Everybody's hand, wish them a Shabbat Shalom.